is right. We can talk about anything you like. Just listen. Take a walk right over to my kitchen. What you wanna do? Come mix it up with the stew. So tell me what you wanna do. Come mix it up with the stew. Yeah, come mix it up with the stew.
Welcome to The Stew. It is a fabulous Wednesday. I'm Janae.
I'm Les.
I'm Anika.
And we're going into our fabulous Woman Crush Wednesday. But first, we want to talk about what's happening on Facebook this week. And women around the world are changing their Facebook profiles to commemorate the fact that the UN is talking about ending violence against women. And I had no idea, even around the world, 1 in every 3 women are subject to violence by people who they know, trust, and love. So today we want to really dedicate our episode to actually bringing light to this and to talk about the fact that violence affects us all.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's crazy to me because what the UN is trying to say is the minute that a woman has been violated or she's experienced violence, it affects the world at large. So just think about it. The government has to now pay a lot of money out, or different governments, the UN has to pay a lot of money out for, you know, mental health, recovery, and some other stuff, you know? So it's very expensive, but it starts with us as women to say, you know what, we're gonna stop violence, we're gonna bring light to this issue. So I'm glad that the UN, you know, has spearheaded it, but it's up to us to actually bring light to it.
It also has a greater impact, too, on the household. If, for example, there was a 2-income household with the mother and the father, the woman has to be out because she's been, you know, abused, then that takes a toll on the overall household, and then in effect takes a toll on the man, who will eventually most likely become even more enraged. It's just a vicious cycle. Even though he might have been the cause of whatever the circumstance is, it's just a vicious cycle that would repeat unless the woman is able to seek help or get out of the situation altogether.
Exactly, but that's a hard thing.
I'm always amazed when things like this happen, because I feel like, why has it taken us so long to have something like this happen? Period. Like, I mean,
like this movement.
Yeah. Like, I'm a true believer in equal rights, and I don't see male or female. So it always confuses me when you look at legislature, or, you know, and things of this nature. The fact that it's so archaic, it doesn't make sense to me.
It's interesting that you talk about equal rights, because they also the UN brings up the fact that the reason why domestic violence also happens is because, you know, they don't actually view women as equal to men, right? So women are more subject to this because we're looked at as inferior.
And this is why I was so pissed off when people voted no in that referendum. This is exactly why. Because do you understand what this means for you as a woman? Like, you understand that people generally treat you lesser than because you have breasts. You understand that, right? You by default are kind of screwed just because you're a woman.
And ladies, on the topic of women's issues, it was recently reported in the news that the Pope had given Catholic priests the ability to, well, not really the ability, but let me say it how we have it here. He's extended indefinitely the power of Catholic priests to forgive abortions. And I think that this is a really huge step for the Catholic Church for dare I say organized religion, but, you know, Catholics, Anglicans, Baptists, anyone who may or may not believe that a woman has the right to choose, be it whatever your religion is. And could I just say that I firmly believe that a woman should have the right to choose, because not every situation is cookie cutter. Not everything is in black and white. Not every circumstance is going to be the same. So for me, in my opinion, I think across the board to say no, abortion shouldn't happen because it's murder is a little, it's insensitive.
You know what I want to, though, Leslie, is from the church, is to take on the disposition of God. If we want to look at it from a Christianity standpoint, right? Because it's the church. It's, God gives us options. He gives us choices. He gives us the ability to choose.
Yes.
Either way. So outside of what your opinion is or what we know to be black and white for murder and not murder, even our God gives us an option. He says, hey, you have all of this. You can do whatever you want. So why do we stifle people of that? Because we feel like we like to project
based
our
on
own
religion.
Yeah, based on religion. People like to project,
Yeah.
their beliefs onto people. And I
Yeah,
feel like
the-
even our God gives us choices, man. Shut up
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I think the institution of religion, as a young person, it's evolved for me. I mean, it was all about going to church, but now I prefer to have church deep down inside as long as I'm a good person
Yeah.
and I understand what's right from wrong
Thank
for
you.
me.
And it's your walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Get
So
you some
Right.
Jesus.
it's hard for someone to say, if I'm going through something, I cannot do it and I will not be forgiven by God.
Right.
That it's
Right.
very hard for me to think that could be a stance when I go to church, when I'm supposed to be accepted, I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be, a loved one, a child of God. And then I make that one wrong decision, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden my life is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to kind of comprehend that.
Yeah.
But next up, I want to talk about actually insecurities. Women who have insecurities. I mean, it's a woman episode for me. So coming out of that, it makes me think about things I'm insecure about and how it is projected at the church and even with my friends, right? So. Funny enough, Jennifer Lawrence just came out. She was in.
You mean the actor?
The actor, she came
Yeah.
out and said, hey, when I go out, I feel wonderful. And then when I actually get in front of people, I feel like I made the wrong outfit choice. I
Right.
made, all these wrong decisions. And for me, my insecurity, I would say, is, the fact that, do I have insecurities?
That's a really good one.
Hold on. Okay.
I'm sure you do.
I was going to
Janae.
say
Everyone
I was
does.
going to actually say my insecurity is, how people see me, but that's not true. I was going to lie, and that's not right. So my only insecurity is, in relationships, you want to be like,
What are you talking like?
over the other
relationships with
feminine ladies. and
friends or coworkers, family?
Spit it out. Spit
my,
it out.
My husband, honey.
Oh,
You
Okay.
want to always look good for him. You
Oh,
want
of
to
course.
be your boyfriend and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, big booty hoe pass you. Can you bleep that out? And then it's like, oh, he's looking at her. So that's my insecurity, unfortunately.
Okay,
But
I
enough
can
about me.
understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think overall it's just difficult being a female, period, because there is a quote, of course, I cannot remember it at this time, but there is something that I read several years ago to the effect of a woman, there will always be someone out there that's smarter than you, that's prettier than you, that has a better body than you, all of these different things, more educated and what have you. And I think when we're younger, say in our late teens, early 20s, you kind of feel a little, how should I say, empowered. You feel like, I believe, at your most beautiful, perhaps, because usually, we have the nice little tight body and we've got a lot going for us
and then
then.
it just goes downhill after 26.
And as you
so
get
what?
older, I gotta say, things start to change. And you see the world a lot differently.
So
and
you a
then
little
you
insecure about this, Leslie?
well, I'll be honest, yeah, there's the age thing, getting older. Granted, I'm not one of those who'll be like, oh, I'm going to go and have plastic surgery to alter this or change that, because I do believe in embracing your age, but it's the fact that things change, but then you see other people who are at where you were. Does that make sense?
Oh, this is very complicated. I know. Okay, I'm insecure about that.
No, but does that make sense? Y'all get it? What I'm trying
yeah.
to say? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you on the plastic surgery, but that's a different topic.
You mean as in you would have it?
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, it depends, I guess.
And
on what it is.
insecurity for me, I'm just always thinking I'm not doing enough. A lot of people look at me from the outside and they think I'm doing so well. My friends and my family are so extremely proud of me and everything that I'm doing. And I should be excited about that. And majority of the time I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. That's not, yeah, that's okay. That's not it. And yeah, that's something I'm definitely working on.
Yeah.
Never feels like it's enough, you know? Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
one thing with my insecurity, one thing that I do a lot is I stalk my significant other on social media.
Really now?
I am the queen of, you know,
I can
breaking
see that.
in.
You are the lady
and
that
it-
ran after him around the block the other day,
Man,
so
I could
this
break
doesn't
and
surprise
enter
me.
a social media account like nothing. And you know, so now I
Joanne?
figured out the Instagram account, and you could look at what's going on the computer.
Right.
And then here's a nice trick: if you need to find the password, there's usually like a little like note section or a
Okay.
document like deep down in the computer, his
Right.
computer, and you just look for that.
For his passwords.
Okay.
Wow.
I hope your hubby is watching. Does he watch the show? Because he
No.
need to start watching the show.
Janae just went from Janae to Joanne. All right?
I'm telling you.
For real
You guys
though.
don't do that?
Honestly.
No, you don't
truly.
do that. You don't.
Well,
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm the only one that
no,
does.
no. I start. Let me tell you what I used to do with
tell
my
me.
my first ex. Well, my ex
Your
before the
first
last.
ex.
I
love
would.
it.
I would. So Facebook has this option where you can put a star on their page, so you get a notification anytime they update a status or they post a picture. So I would always know, kind of like maybe what he's doing, you know. And yeah, once we broke up, I did check his Facebook page a few, days a week.
Okay.
And
But this is my question though. Are we checking or stalking? Where is
yes.
the line? How do you know
That is
when
kind of
you've crossed
stalking,
the
no?
line?
Oh, it's crossed the line. When you start answering their messages, which I've done also.
Oh my
But
God.
enough about that. So after the break, we're coming back with Miss Tennille Burrows, an activist, a phenomenal woman. You don't want to miss out. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
Did you really say answered back? Oh my And we're back with our Woman Crush Wednesday here on The Stew, and we're so delighted to have in studio with us singer turned activist and independent candidate for the upcoming general elections next year. Please, let's put our hands together, ladies, and welcome Tennille Burrows.
Hello.
The title is so.
But we have to acknowledge, you were once a singer and now you're an activist and going into politics. I definitely want to talk about that transition, how it all came about, what made you decide to do the political run. Give us some insight.
Well, in 2009, I was in New York recording, and I saw on Facebook through social media that something had happened. There were reports that a 5-month-old baby girl had been raped and succumbed to injuries and died. So, I'd been pursuing my music career and pretty successful to a certain degree, and was going to continue to follow up with a lot of the songwriting side of it. But I decided I needed to come home and try to figure out how could we figure out some way to prevent things like this from happening in the future, some way to ensure that people who would ever think of doing this could, be thwarted in their efforts and that sort of thing.
Right.
So came back home, and a few other women and I started a group called Bahamas Against Sexual Violence and Child Abuse. So it was really more of an advocacy, public awareness type Facebook group where people were made aware of what was happening and could share their ideas about how to prevent these sorts of things. After that, it escalated when we learned that a member of parliament actually made a joke about beating a woman. So we protested, presented our ideas as to what the government's response should have been, including sensitivity training for members of parliament.
So important. Wow.
And a whole list of things like investing more money in the
Right.
Bahamas Crisis Center and other agencies that deal with these issues. But we really weren't, we didn't get the kind of response that we were anticipating.
So I was going to ask you, did you with having that response or lack thereof from the government and other parties that were able to make a difference, is that more or less the reason why you decided, okay, I need to take this a step further and go from advocacy to being a politician?
Well, to being someone who actually has the opportunity to table bills related to these issues and, you know, anti-corruption and things of that nature. You exactly hit it on the head, yeah.
Wow. So your platform is more or less violence against women?
My platform predominantly actually consists of anti-corruption reform. And, you know, in 2014, we had the Organization of American States come and do an investigation of the Bahamas regarding corruption. That yielded in March of last year a 107-page report, which essentially, if we were to implement those recommendations, we would be able to strengthen existing laws that are on the book. Public Disclosure Act, agencies like the Auditor General's Department, the Public Accounts Committee, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel as though major parties don't have the seriousness that is required to enact these things and enforce these things. So I figured as an independent candidate, I could be neutral, nonpartisan, go in there and get the job done.
So, of course, what's on everyone's minds right now is the upcoming election and the fact that we have an alarming rate of just low registration. What are your thoughts on that? How are you are you a part of trying to get people to register to vote? Where do you stand with that?
Well, you know, as a child, I watched politics without being in a family that was political in any sense. We never had red or yellow. I didn't even know how my parents voted. By the time I was 18 and had scrutinized, what was the difference between the FNM coming to power after the PLP, I decided I'm never going to vote FNM or PLP. By the time I turned 32 last election, I said, geez, how long do I have to wait? The DNA came about, they were an option, but based on what I saw exhibited from the candidates, I had to vote for the best person for the job. And that person ended up being the same person that said the joke in Parliament. So all of these things kind of caused me to realize I'm not going to just sit back and allow my country to go in a direction that it shouldn't when we already have, you know, what we were talking about off air, some of the highest reported cases per capita of rape in the Caribbean.
Wow.
These sorts of issues need to be addressed, and in a very serious and acute fashion.
Yeah. What's positive is that I think of those registered currently, women are, you know, at the highest.
Historically, Bahamian women have exceeded men in terms of actually coming out and voting. It's not surprising. It's something, though, that I guess is ironic considering the fact that during the gender equality referendum, which was largely to ensure the equality under the law of men and women, a lot of women actually voted against that. So women have the power. We realize now through the recent revelation from the Parliamentary Registration Department that young people are actually the highest registered voters at this time. And these are two groups that I would consider to be marginalized in some respect, because a lot of older people say, oh, young people, you know, the Prime Minister at some point attributed crime to the craziness of young people. And that's wrong. You know, the statistics show that we have a lot of gang wars happening and a lot of crimes that young people are indeed involved with. But young people are a reflection of their parents and the older people.
Exactly.
And they're still, I feel, less, you know, culpable than people who have been here longer and are wiser and all these sorts of things. So really, in terms of preventative measures, psychology and psychiatry, and those sorts of things, I think that we haven't really given children the fundamentals that they need to grow into adults that can thrive in safe environments. You know, the levels of abuse of children in the Bahamas is high as well.
Do you think, though, that the change that needs to happen in this country has to be of a radical nature? Is that the only way that we're going to see results when things start to look on the up and up, if you will?
Well, you know, I don't believe in violence. I do believe in force. I do believe in pressure. I do believe in agitation.
Right.
I really hope and pray that we don't get to the place where people lash out in that sort of sense. But, you know, in going through the constituency and speaking with a lot of young people in particular, they're fed up, disillusioned. Some are angry. How are we going to appease that? they're like, it doesn't make a difference if I vote because the FNM is going to come into power, or the PLP is going to come into power, and the DNA, I'm not so sure
but
about.
what do we do about that? How do we fix that?
How do we fix that?
Because that's really people not just that. I'm one of those people. That's how I feel, and I feel that way fully knowing that the right thing to do is to go out and vote. I know that, but I'm having such a hard time with that. I'm having a hard time saying I'm going to choose because I should vote. I don't want to just vote because I have the right to vote, but my voting process, it's silly. My options are silly. So
I don't know.
What do you then say?
I don't know how much we could change how the system works at this point. I think that what we can do is get radical in the sense that we really bind together as communities, constituencies, subdivisions, and say, well, this is someone who we've seen has been exhibiting that they can lead or has the capacity, and build them up, and then maybe by the next election, you will have constituencies presenting their candidates and saying, we've already done the legwork. Don't even bring your candidate to me last minute or whatever the case might be. We know who we want.
I think consistency is great too. Let me tell you, when DNA came on board, I was actually kind of excited. And I felt renewed and I felt refreshed and I felt like, wow, okay, I might have something to be excited about with people that are in the right kind of age group that feel connected to me, but also old enough to be much smarter than me and my silly self, right? And then it kind of fizzled for me. And then I felt like I was back in square one. I was back in that old dirty relationship that I didn't like being in before.
Well, let's ask specifically, what sets you apart from everybody else when running independent? How do you feel about it?
Well, I want to get to that, but also say that there are also other groups now, fringe groups, the People's Movement, the BNCP, BCP, something called DAMS. These are going to be the most options we've ever had. So if you're talking about options, whether they're viable or not, I can't say. We're going to have some options, and you're going to have a few independents. I know about a handful so far.
Well, see, that's amazing. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel really good.
But you got to do your research, I feel. Do your research and make an informed decision. So yes, your decision then to run independent.
That was a no-brainer for me. I don't believe that any of the existing parties have enough of a similar ideology to what I do. I really believe strongly in justice, and I believe in human rights, and I believe in equality. I believe in accountability and transparency, and I don't see any group right now that's, that I would want to associate with. I'm very particular about association, and at the end of the day, I believe an independent candidacy is viable in 2017 because these anti-corruption bills that I'm going to table once elected, for instance, any member of parliament that votes against those is essentially saying to the Bahamian public, to their constituents, that they are either one, corrupt, or two, solidifying that they're
sexist, they're all that.
They're okay with corruption.
So it's important for you too to be a woman in that position. I do kind of like that, really.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, I wish you were in Elizabeth.
Well, you know what, ladies, we got to wrap things up. But Ternille, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
It's been so insightful having you here and shedding some light on some of these issues for us. So thank you very much. Thank you.
And I want to say shout outs to the people of Elizabeth who are awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we have more, Stu, coming up after the break, so don't you go anywhere. We'll see you after this.
Dance to the polls.
Yes, that's exactly what I should do. Tennille is here to give me some tips on why it is important for us to absolutely go out and vote in the upcoming election. Can you give us, or tell us, why is it important, particularly for young people, to go out and vote?
Well, first of all, right now, the highest registered voters are young people. So that's an indication that we're on the right track. We just need to up it. We need to show that young women in particular are very interested in, where your country is headed. And voting is one very important way to use your democratic rights. We have many other ways through activism, advocacy, community development, but on a consistent basis, we can do those things. It's only once every 5 years or so that we get an opportunity to vote for the general election.
Why is it important for young people to choose their government?
Well, you know, on a constituency level, you're voting for your member of parliament of choice. It's important for young people to participate and have a voice, not just a seat at the table, but actually a voice. And by voting, you have a voice. You don't want it to be something where you have someone voted in for your member of parliament that you had no hand in deciding. And at the end of the day, you might have been able to choose someone who you would have preferred. So, you know, Bahamians are good at complaining, good at making noise. Now we need to get good at being activated to do some things, and voting is one of them.
I don't think people also see or understand what a good member of parliament is supposed to look like. What is a good member of parliament or representative for the people, the community? What does that person, what is he supposed to look like, or he or she supposed to look like?
Very good question. I think first of all, you need someone who has the people at heart and who's transparent, who isn't going to BS. Someone who essentially in the parliamentary capacity is well versed enough to propose bills, vote on bills, and on a constituency level, someone who ensures that, you know, the basic needs of the constituency that the government are supposed to meet are actually met. And anything beyond that is icing. But I think Bahamians in general are looking for people that they can trust.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Once again, don't forget to go out, register, and vote. This has been The Stew. We'll see you guys next time. Should be couch talk. Welcome back to The Stew. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We had so much fun for our Woman Crush Wednesday. Don't forget to follow us on social media. That is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Everything is ILTV Studios. Be sure to tune into a new episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 and 8 p.m. See you guys next time.
Thanks, Tennille.
Thank you.
When the vibe is right, we can talk about anything you like. Just listen. Take a walk right over to my kitchen. Or